Free rap beats.
Sheila was rich, no one would deny this. Gold touching a clutch like Midas. Gerald Croft was hot, the finest, but she never knew that a man had a side chick. In this first song, I focused on Sheila, and I remember driving. I was on a motorway, and I remember the lyrics just came to me. The first part of the song. And that's how this song came about. And so what I'm doing in these songs is I'm basically taking the lives of the characters that you see in the text and trying to bring them to life. Sheila was rich, no one would deny this. Gold touch in her clutch like Midas. Gerald Croft was hot, the finest, but she never knew that her man had a side chick. So Sheila was rich, no one could deny this, came to me because I just thought the fact that she comes from a wealthy family, she's come from an affluent background. Her and Eric are the beneficiaries of the kind of empire that Mr. Berlin has developed, and so that idea of her having gold in her clutch, you know, she's probably got an inheritance, she's probably very, you know, she's probably gonna be all right in life, and she is very much part of that upper middle class, and she's living a lifestyle of some luxury. We see that when she goes to shop at Millwoods and she's trying on dresses. She's living a life, she's comfortable. You know, Midas was a king who everything he touched turned to gold, and that can sound like a blessing, but actually it can be also a curse in disguise. The idea that you have access to this amount, this absolute wealth of money and affluence, but actually it kills everything. And the reason I made that link to the Midas is the idea that Sheila's affluence and her power that comes from the family she's from and the wealthy background she's from, to some extent, kills Eva. She couldn't have got Eva sacked if she didn't have the power of her family name. She said she would withdraw the account, and so that idea is something that I was exploring there. Gerald Croft was hot, so you know the way that Priestley describes him in the stage directions is that he's a good-looking guy, he's a good-looking chap, he's no dandy, he's a man about town. So there's something about Gerald Croft that is clearly attractive, and I think that Sheila feels like she has struck gold in terms of finding Gerald and that he's marrying her, but she never knew that her man had a side chick. So the whole facade is exposed when she finds out that her man that she's due to be engaged to actually has a woman on the side, or had a woman on the side in Daisy Renton. Though she wondered how his time spent, like summer when she couldn't find him, that summer when he said he was grinding, on a real, should have known from the signs then. She confronts it early on in the play. She wondered where he was, like that summer when you never came near me, and his answer to that is that he was working hard. And Mrs. Berlin jumps in and says, yeah, when you get married you're going to need to understand that men need to work, which very much shows you about the perceptions and expectations of women in that culture and at that time. And so she kind of says, you know, she's not satisfied with his response. Something was always niggling at her. She later refers to it in the play where she talks about the idea of it kind of niggling at her. And she always kind of had this sense of something not being right, which is kind of why I said, like, you know, she should have seen from the signs. That's not the kind of behavior you would expect of someone that's in love with you, that you just disappear for several weeks on end and not know where that person is. But he was dazzling, blinding, seemed like a kind man. Plus, he got on one knee, said marry me, and copped her the diamond, trust. But he was dazzling, blinding. I think that, again, there's a big theme within the play of the idea of appearance, and appearance being, you know, the appearance of all of the family, including Gerald, is to present themselves in a particular way, to appear to people in a certain way. And what the inspector does is exposes all of those appearances. And if you're not careful, you can be dazzled by, you know, the wealth and the power as people in society, people of social status. And I think that Sheila, to some extent, overlooks the fact that her future husband, her fiance, is potentially cheating on her because she's dazzled by his wealth and his success, and he's a good-looking guy. She was very much riding a wave of kind of success and happiness, and that's something that I refer to later on in the song. He's one of the family now, sitting there smiling. He's been trying long enough, right? she just sits there silent. He's one of the family now, he actually says that. He's playfully joking with her and saying, oh, I've been trying hard enough to be in this family. And Sheila doesn't respond. It says she doesn't reply. And that, I think, is a sign that early on she recognises that what she believes to be true isn't actually true. What appears to be one way is very different from the reality. So I've taken a little bit of poetic license here when it says that something doesn't feel right. She doesn't say that, but I'm just inferring from her response, the fact she doesn't reply when he says he's been trying really hard to get into the family, that inside she's probably feeling a sense that something doesn't feel right. And I said that it makes her think twice. Like I think that for her to have to give him back the engagement ring, all the inspector did is confirm things that she already believed. That's my personal view. Something doesn't feel right. It rings like a siren. It makes her think twice, like when the pink light just hardens and brightens. It rings like a siren. It made me think of Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie's got a song where it says something about there goes the alarm.
There goes the alarm, ringing in my head. Like somebody said, don't you trust him, no.
And again, it's this idea of her man cheating on her. And so the fact that Sheila said, you know, I use that idea of something ringing like a siren, is something is telling her that it's not right. And it makes her think twice. Like when the pink light hardens and brightens is a direct reference to what J.B. Priestley says in the stage directions at the start of the play. He says that in the stage directions that before the inspector arrives, it should be pink and intimate. And that's because they want to create this sense of safety, security, comfort, affluence, enjoyment, luxury. But as soon as the inspector arrives, the light is to become harder and brighter, almost like an interrogation. And so their dirt's going to be exposed by that light, and there's going to be a spotlight put on each and every one of their lives and their actions that led to the demise of Eva Smith. Before she was laughing, excited. Now she's mature, enlightened. These storms have hit her, lightning. Of course she gives back the diamond. So really got the sense that at the start of the play she's almost a little bit immature. She's laughing, she's giddy with excitement, she's drunk on life. Like, she's not actually drunk. It's Eric who's squiffy. She refers to him as being squiffy, but she is equally drunk. She's equally kind of just so enjoying life and so enjoying how amazing her life is. And what happens is there's a stark contrast between her and Eva Smith. Later on in the play, Gerald is going to say that young women should be protected from such things, and the inspector challenges him on it and says, oh, so you think that young women should be protected from this, knowing full well that Gerald has contributed to Eva's demise. And so I talk about this being like a storm that hits her. She's struck by lightning. She's struck by a sense that this is maybe not the life that she wanted, or this is not the life that she wants to lead. She's impressionable, she's younger, she's part of that younger generation which Priestley uses to show, I guess, a sense of hope and optimism that this younger generation don't have to be like the older generation who are very much set in their ways. She's changed by the night's findings. Everybody's dirt in the light, and she discovers he's not a nice man. Now she's sure he's not the right man. I definitely think that Sheila and Eric are significantly changed by the night's findings, although Sheila is the one who actually seems to be most affected by it. You know, Eric joins her in the argument against their parents who want to just carry on pretending as though everything's fine. But she seems to really be transformed by what's happened, by her own sin, by her own mistakes, by her own actions. She's contrite, she's broken, I think, by the end of the play, because she recognises the similarities between herself and Eva. Even from the start, she challenges her father and says that these women are not cheap labour, they're people. And I think she really does have a sense of empathy, where she puts herself in the position of a young woman who probably wasn't too dissimilar in age to her. And so she's definitely changed by the night's findings. Everyone's dirt is in the light. Everyone is exposed for what they are. And that theme of appearance is exposed, appearance versus reality. The difference is that at least with Sheila and Eric, they kind of own their mistakes, and they kind of own and take ownership over their behaviour. They take responsibility, whereas the other characters tend to try and cover it up. They seem to look for a way to kind of cover up their errors. We've all shortened her lifespan, but you're not even contrite, man. You're still caught in your lies, fam. This was no ordinary policeman. in this line, I start to speak as Sheila, so you hear her voice and that fact that we all shortened her lifespan, we all ended this girl's life. By our successive actions, we have a cumulative effect that actually ended up in this girl dying. I think she's upset by the fact that the rest of the family don't seem to be as affected by what they have done, regardless of whether the inspector is real or not, regardless of whether it's a prank or not. She is affected by it. She knows what she did and she recognises that and owns it and she takes responsibility for it. And she almost, there's a sense that she recognises that this policeman was almost maybe as a pre-warning or you know, a preview or prelude to what was going to come. She recognises that this was not an ordinary policeman, regardless of whether he is an official policeman or a real policeman or not. He was definitely their inspector. She refers to that and says he was definitely our inspector. And he does inspect them and he does interrogate them and expose their dirt. So hard to stay polite, man. That poor girl ended her life, man. I got her sacked out of spite and now I'm crushed like a Sprite can. That line's so hard to stay polite. I think she has deference to her parents initially. She refers to her mother as mummy, and there is a deference at the start of the play. But the longer the play goes on, the more frustrated she becomes, and the more her tone changes, because she really feels that her family aren't getting it. Definitely her parents are not getting it. So hard to stay polite. She starts to speak out of turn in terms of the standing that she has within the family, and she speaks, I guess you could argue she's starting to speak truth to power. Her parents are the ones with power, they're the ones with the authority, and yet she challenges them and she says to them, like, this is not right. She recognises that her actions were spiteful. There was no real reason for Eva Smith to have experienced the brunt of her anger and her frustration, and yet she knows that she got her sacked out of spite. And I think she is crushed by what takes place in Eva's life. I've had enough, can't stand this. I can't listen to your language. Just remember what the man said. Fire, blood and anguish. Towards the end of the play, she distanced herself. She kind of distanced herself from her parents. She gives Gerald back the ring and she starts to distance herself. And towards the end, she's like, I'm gonna leave. Like, I can't even be around you. I can't stand the way you're talking. That's what I meant there when I said, I can't stand your language. I can't stand the way you're speaking about this woman's life and the fact that we're almost kind of patting ourselves on the back that we've got away with it. It's a grand hoax. We're all okay. She's deeply affected by what the inspector says, and she says, just remember what he said. I think those words ring in her mind, the fire, the blood, the anguish. She is very much affected by it. JB Priestley presents Sheila as a very key character in terms of someone who would be open to new ideas and new views, a new way of treating other people. And she's definitely someone who has been so deeply affected by the events of the evening that she moves towards an idea of social responsibility and the idea of looking out for other people, that we are connected to others. And so that's Sheila's story. There should be a way for you to subscribe here, and you can check out some videos here as well as some videos here. All right, take care, speak to you soon, peace.